What is up, everyone? It is Diecastbuffet here again. Guys, a brand new diecast mold got released, and we have it in the studio. So make sure to give the video a huge thumbs up. Let's go and hop to it. As you can see on the rotating base, we have 4 different diecasts in the studio. 2 of them are Fords, 2 of them are Chevrolets. All 4 of these are the brand new GL mold from Lionel Racing. We're going to be doing a closer look at all these and checking them out in detail. And I'll also be comparing them to a EL mold diecast. So let's go ahead and take these cards off the base and really dive into the brand new NASCAR Cup Series diecast mold. Alright fellas, here is a diecast that we didn't feature on the initial rotating base, but it is a Chase Elliott 2024 Martinsville 40th Anniversary Universe Chevrolet Camaro for Chase Elliott. So I was looking at this diecast mold, and I even did a little bit of comparison to the real car from 2024. And I'm just going to shoot you straight on this, guys. These are so accurate to the real car. Why the wheel print? It has been a long time for the 1/64 scale diecast collector, at least for the Cup Series, since we've had high definition printed wheels. Let me tell you how long it's been. Middle of 2019. Don't believe me? Look at a primary 2019 Chase Elliott 1/64 and then look at maybe one of his Hooter Spirits cars. You'll notice one has more of a blurrier Goodyear decal, and I'll show it right here. This is a Gen 7 Penske wheel, right? Notice how the Goodyear looks a little fuzzy. This came off an EL mold Gold Series car. Look how sharp and defined and quite frankly just high resolution the Goodyear Eagle decal is on the GL mold car, which this is a GL car. Look at the 10824 GL. That is the GL mold. That last 2 numbers is what we call it. We call it the GL mold. On an EL mold diecast, it won't say GL, it'll say EL. Not to confuse all, but trying to give a crash course, especially for maybe some of the younger fans that might not know this stuff. But what I'm noticing is the wheel on the EL mold, which is the gray wheel here. Yes, I know it's 2 different colors, but I think it's good for demonstration purposes, is the rim is actually smaller than the GL mold car, and the tire is actually wider or taller on the EL rather than the GL mold. Why is that important? If you notice on the real Cup car, and I'll try to show a photo of it here, the tires are actually really skinny on the real Cup cars, and they did a fantastic job with the 1/24 scale. But when you're looking at the 1/64 scale, the tires look a little bit off. So that's the first thing that I noticed from the car. Now, the bottom tray is a little bit lighter, right? It feels a little bit more flat, a little bit more square, if that makes any sense. But this is what the real car looks like. It's a flat carbon fiber composite type body on the bottom of the car. That's literally what it is. So I'm not tripping on it. Yes, we're going to do a side-by-side comparison to the EL mold version of this car, but I just want to give my initial thoughts with it. So I'm absolutely in love with the wheel print. The rims being just a fraction wider is so much more realistic. The high-definition tire prints are amazing. Don't believe me? Look at any diecast from 2018 and 2019, and you'll see a ton of the 2018s, or actually all the 2018s, are made with the high-definition tire print. And then about half of them in 2019 were made with the high-definition tire print. They switched over late that year. Now, I'm noticing is the hood decal here, it's a little bit more recessed. The hood vent is actually deeper on this casting from what I can tell, and this being a metallic paint job, it's probably layered. They probably sprayed it with red. They sprayed it probably with silver, and then they put that kind of ruby metallic red on top of it, which might garner a little bit of a thicker paint job. But it's actually pretty pronounced there. I'm looking at the top of the car, and the roof height looks the same. The front of the car looks pretty much the same. I think the splitter is I think the splitter is actually more pronounced on this one compared to the EL. Again, I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison. I just want to get my initial thoughts. This is a little bit of a decal bugaboo. One thing that I've heard, this one that should come off, is the decals for the GL mold cars are actually weaker. From a visual perspective, they actually looks fantastic. Very high quality prints. I don't see any blurriness or fuzziness. I mean, look at that Cup Series decal. That's high resolution. When you compare this to the PTC or the J mold, which is basically the really funky diecast mold, these things are, they got the print quality. The die-cast mold itself, it looks so realistic. They've done a phenomenal job. I'm not even kidding you. Like, they really have knocked it out of the park. I feel like the car is a little bit less bulky. It's a little bit more sporty. Like, the body lines of the car are a little bit more pronounced. Like, I feel like this area right here is a little bit more... The rear of the car, definitely, like the bumper, especially on the Fords. We'll be showing that in a moment. But the biggest bugaboo to me is there's no window print, which is going to bug a lot of collectors as there's not an alternative at the time of this video. Now we're going to bring the EL mold version of this car into the studio. This is the Gold Series Edition, plastic chassis, but you can already see pretty quickly the difference into the body design. The splitter on the EL mold is a little bit more round. But the splitter on the GL mold car is much flatter, much more pronounced, as I mentioned. You can see how the left rear window is a little bit more rounded off on the, this is the right car, the car on the right side of your screen is the EL mold. It's a little bit more rounded off, less pronounced, and the one right here, the GL, bulkier, but more sharp-lined look. Fantastic stuff. The wheels, I mean, I'm going to do it like this, and you can really see the difference in the wheels. I'm going to zoom in here, bear with me. And the Goodyear print, I mean, look at the EL mold print, right? Look at the GL mold print. Now, I think the GL mold tires were introduced late into the J mold's run, or when they initially made the switch from the PTC to the J mold, which I know it all gets confusing, all the different molds and stuff, but, you know, I don't make the rules. My point is they made these new tires for that mold, and they are absolutely amazing. They might not look like it, but you could paint the rim on this thing. They're going to look so much more like the 124 scales. I mean, look how blurry the Goodyear logo is on the right. So that's what I'm trying to say. The GL mold is quietly, like, it's really impressing me. I'm not even going to hold you. Another substantial difference I notice is the window net. Let me get there we go, get the brightness and all that corrected. But look at the window net. Yes, I know one is gray plastic, so it's a little bit easier to see. But you can see how on the GL mold, the window net is more of a square, while the other one's more of kind of a wedge, right? So you have that. I noticed the paint is a little different on the EL mold. I don't know if it's because maybe the paint is thinner on the GL mold. I don't know if they use a different mixture. One thing I've learned about metallic paints is you could spray one heavier than the other and it's going to look pretty different. If I had to say from the naked eye, these are not the same color. The one on the right is a little bit more red. The one on the left is more of like a Cabernet, kind of a wine red, if you will. Go to the right side of the diecast, and the print quality was something I was really curious of, because I heard people saying the print quality for the GL mold was not good. Like, it was chipping. I've been handling this car not with a lot of care, because, you know, I'm trying to test it. Like, you know, I always try to handle my stuff with care, but for this car right here, I wanted to do a test on it. I haven't seen any flaking. I'm just going to be honest with you. I have not seen any flaking. So from my honest, you know, thoughts, I'm actually really impressed with it. Now, looking at the opacity of the decals, the deck lid on the left car looks just a fraction less bright than the one on the right side. I don't know if that's the underneath paint maybe having an effect. Like, the one on the left looks a little bit more dull. So naturally, if the paint is just, let's say, I don't know, 5 to 10% darker, naturally the brightest decals are going to, you know, have that effect. Like, you look at the Universe decal on the roof. Look how the one on the left and the one on the right. The one on the right is significantly brighter. So I don't know if that's just, hey, let's make a small difference because they're two different die-cast molds, two different factories, X, Y, and Z, or is that more of the paint underneath, or perhaps the decals just don't have the same opacity. But then I go to the side panel of the car, and I'm like struggling to find a difference in the opacity of the white. Look at where the white is behind the number 9 and the Goodyear decal. Those look pretty much identical to me. I mean, like, I'm not even going to hold you. Those look almost identical to me. So I'm not really sure what's going on, why these are a little bit more, like, maybe 10% less bright. I don't know. Regardless, so far I am extremely impressed. And if this is the new die-cast mold that they're going to alternate with, and when I mean alternate, like, if they do Wave 5 with this mold, they do Wave 6 with this mold, wave 7 with this mold, wave 8, that type of alternation, which they have done the last 2 or 3 years with the J mold and the PTC mold. If this is the new thing from Lionel, let me tell you, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, because the NASCAR Authentics line, if this is the new way they're going with it, they're making this the next alternate mold to kind of bounce between 2 factories. Massive thumbs up for me to you, Lionel. Thank you for that, because your fans have been begging and just going crazy wanting that diecast mold to be fixed, that being the PTC and J mold. This is fantastic. I'm telling you, this is absolutely fantastic. This is like, I'm very critical. Look, I've done like 2,000 diecast reviews on this channel. Trust me, I approve of this car 100%. Fantastic job, Lionel. It's a little bit more realistic, right? It's fantastic. I mean, look at the roof rails on this thing. Like, the roof rails on the car on the right just seem just a fraction taller, but the one on the left just looks a little bit shorter. But it looks like it fits the body line of the car. And you look at the rear panels of the car. The one on the right seems a little bit more kind of streamlined, kind of a little bit more aerodynamic, like a bullet. This looks more like a production line Camaro, where it's very pronounced, like it's flat at the top, right? But the sides of the car are like very pronounced. So fantastic stuff. And I think there's a little paint chip there. I don't know if that was there prior. I'm not sure. But my point is, they have knocked it out of the park with this diecast mold. This is the Camaro variant of it. I have the Ford one, which we're going to show real quick. But from what I see, they absolutely nailed it with this diecast mold. Massive W, Lionel. Thank you for doing that. So we're going to be showing another diecast here. We're going to be comparing 2 diecasts. Now, this is not an exact diecast comparison in terms of paint scheme, but they are somewhat similar. So the car on the right is going to be a 2024 Noah Gragson die-cast chassis. So again, it's not going to be an exact comparison, but it's a die-cast chassis MillerTech Ford Mustang. The one on the left is going to be a Chris Buescher Fastenal Ford Mustang. And from what I see for the die-cast here, the roof might actually be a little bit shorter on the GL mold variant of the Ford Mustang. The GL one's on the one on the left. I don't know if that's true or not, but I was looking at this and it gave me a fraction of a feel of the Spin Master cars from 2011 and 2012. But then I started really comparing it to the actual EL mold, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's not like that goofy flat variant that I was thinking it was kind of going to be. And in fact, it looks fantastic, man. The roof rails are even less pronounced on the GL mold compared to the EL mold from what I'm seeing. And I'm trying to hold the cars and keep the camera in focus. One thing, unfortunately, that is lost with the GL mold is these 2 little splitter hips, if you will. There's a little bit of a cutout, a notch, if you will, on the front splitter. That is lost with the GL mold, but to be honest with you, I could care less. The splitter is so flat. I mean, put it this way, more flat than the COT era splitters, okay? If you have a COT era diecast, you will know what I'm talking about. Look at the thickness of the splitter. It's just a fraction taller. But the one on the EL mode's a fraction taller. The GL mode, I'm telling you, that looks so much more like a what is it? Like a sports car, like a Porsche or a BMW or something. That is fantastic stuff. As we mentioned, the window net is significantly different. I imagine that the physical die-cast mold for the interior is the exact same, that being the cockpit and the dashboard, and then naturally the bottom plate, they have a different stamping. That's probably the same. Why? Because they do the same thing for the EL molds. They're all the same, except for the windows are actually different, most of them. The front windshields, I think, are universal between all 3 die-casts. Actually, no, they're universal between the Fords and the Chevys. The Toyotas, I don't know if y'all know this yet or not, but the Toyotas went back like 20 years, and the windows are all one piece. We have not seen that since the Gen 4 era, where the front and the windshield is one solid, long plastic piece. Ever since the COTs came about in 2007, they have the 2 window set, where the rear window and the front window are 2 separate plastics riveted. I have not seen a Cup car do that since 2007 with the Gen 4. So that was fascinating to me. A lot of people probably don't know that, but that's how the new Toyota 2024s and now 2025s are. Go to the right side of the diecast, and again, now that I've seen the GL mold wheels, and I know they kind of look a little goofy without any paint on them, but if you were to paint the wheels and make it the plastic rim look different than the tire, I'm just saying, what a fantastic diecast wheel. We're going to do a rolling test as well a little bit later in the video. But from what I see, the wheels look so much more realistic. Like if I was doing let's say I was customizing a car, I want to make a Chase Elliott one. I'm actually going to probably use the GL mold wheels instead of the EL mold wheels because of that high definition print. Now this is something, shout out to LW3. I noticed this in his video. Look at the rear portion of the Ford Mustang GL mold, which is the 17 car, the top car. Look how much more detailed in the rear of the car. It kind of has like that kick out, right, where the bumper is. Look at the EL mold one. I mean, it's pretty much flat, right? There's not much detail in terms of it going towards the trunk. Now, it does have kind of a forward curve, right? Similar to the front of the car, it matches the rear of the car, which is going to be really bad for plate racing, I think. But then again, you know, they still win with it. The GL mold, it still has the curved back bumper, but that like curve onto the headlight or into the tail light panel is substantial. Fantastic job. This is how the car really looks like, by the way. You can go look at the photos. I'll try to find one if I can get a good angle, but this is by far the most realistic 164 casting of the 2024 and now 2025 Ford Mustang. The spoiler height actually looks a little bit different as well. Look how tall the spoiler is for the Chris Buescher, and look how tall the spoiler is for the Noah Gragson. To add some context to it, look how tall the EL mode Camaro is. The Ford Mustang one's probably got a taller spoiler than the EL mode Camaro, and I didn't check this, but it looks like in terms of spoiler height, it's actually hard to tell from this angle. I think the EL mold is actually a fraction taller. I could be tripping on that. It's hard to tell because the way the decal wrap is, but they're pretty darn close. Pretty darn close. I think it's just a fraction taller, maybe. I don't know which one would be tall, but they're just a fraction difference. But when you look at this, I mean, there's a difference. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just an optical illusion. Either way. All right, so we're going to do a rolling test real quick. We're going to use all four of these cars. So it's 2 EL mold, 2 GL mold, 1 diecast chassis as well. So anyways, we're going to do a rolling test here. This is the EL mold Camaro, and as you can see, it rolls very good. Very good. I've noticed the Gen 7 cars are the most consistent NASCAR diecast I have ever had in terms of rolling. The wheels, they roll so well. I mean, COTs are so inconsistent with it. A lot of Gen 6 cars are inconsistent. Gen 7 is by far the best rolling diecast I have ever seen from the 164 scale. I'd probably say 9 out of 10 Gen 7 cars I've had, they roll fantastically well. So here's the G mode equivalent to it. And from what I could tell, there's a little friction. There's just a tad bit of friction. Maybe not much, just a little bit. It's hard to really describe it, but I feel like the wheels don't roll as free as this one. And I think the reason for that is the ride height. If you notice, the wheels are just a little bit closer to the fender well compared to this one. Look at the gap. You could see the other side of it. Watch this. You can see my finger through the side, other side of the car. Meanwhile, with this one, there's nothing. So it's got a much tighter wheel well gap. And naturally, with it having more of a gap on the EL mode, it's going to roll with significantly less friction. This one it just feels like it's a little bit slower, but it doesn't have the abomination wheel roll that we saw with the PTC mode. So again, W Lionel on that. Now this is a diecast chassis one. These roll differently than your standard NASCAR 164. They're heavier, but they actually roll very, very good. And then we have the GL mode Ford Mustang. Again, this is probably the verbatim exact same plastic parts that as the Camaro has. I do notice a small squeak sound with it, which is normal. I mean, diecast have had squeaks since the freaking 90s. But this one actually rolls just a little bit better. So to add to that point, this one might have just a little bit of a factory flaw in terms of rolling. Either way, it is rolled about 1,000,000 times better than any PTC mold diecast I've ever had. Where like you'll roll the tire and the tires will do this, like they'll like teeter-totter sideways as you're rolling it, because the hubs at the end of the wheel, they're non-existent. So it basically lets the wheel roll like it doesn't have a tie rod. These significantly better than the PTC mold, or from what I've seen from the just the whatever WLS, all those other poo-poo molds. All right, folks, so in recap, absolutely the Geo mold, in my honest opinion, is a slam dunk. The only thing I would love to see is window prints. I don't know if they'll be able to get that, but they crossed everything else I needed off of a new diecast mold. They found a way to get, I believe it's a separate factory, don't quote me on that, but if they found a way to get a separate factory to have this level of quality diecast mold, fantastic job, and Lionel deserves the credit for it. Amazing job, guys. The wheels look fantastic, the diecast molds look fantastic. From what I tell from the plastic interiors, they're about 90% exact from the EL mold one, so minimal differences there. They roll good, they look great. I haven't had any decal issues as I did this diecast review. I heard a lot of people saying they chip more. Now, sure, if you throw the car halfway across the room like a football, it's going to chip. That's besides the point. I'm not saying their decal clear coat is better, but I'm just saying I handled all these cars and didn't see any severe chips or nothing. So from my honest point, 10 out of 10 just about. I love it. Make sure to pick up these. Again, these are only going to be available in certain waves. I want to say they do one EL mode and then one GL mode. I don't know. The 2025 NASCAR Authentics line might be completely different. I have no idea. But from my honest take, these are fantastic. W. Lionel, thank y'all for changing the J mold to this. I hope that y'all run with this till the end of the Gen 7 era, because this is the way it needs to go. The fans win, in my opinion, with this diecast mold change. And they're still going to be making the EL mold, right? But if they have to use a different factory to help keep the production out, this is an amazing alternative. Very critical of a lot of diecast molds. This is one of them I 100% support. So thank you all for watching the video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And for all your diecast shopping needs, hey, maybe you're into the Ross Chastain Busch Light cars. Maybe you're a Joey Logano fan, or maybe you like Xfinity diecast. Make sure to tap it over there to Circle B Diecast. Use promo code Diecastbuffet. You can save on shipping, guys. You can't get the Authentics cards over there. That's okay. They only make so many cards in the Authentics line anyways, but for all the alternate paint schemes, especially the cards you can't get in the Authentics line, make sure to tap in and pick up your copies today. So I want to do a video on this, talk about the new GL mode. I've been waiting to get these cars in the studio. The Authentics distribution, that's a story for a different day. It's hard to find them, but I wanted to go ahead and run this video. So thank you all for watching. Have a blessed one. Diecastbuffet. Oh yeah, by the way, these were used, by the way. I didn't open these up. So that just shows you even more about the quality of these cars. Diecastbuffet, signing off.